Well, just as we got across, about halfway across the Continental Peninsula, we ran into a cloud bank because we had a hurricane force wind on the 4th, and we ran into a cloud bank. Well, then all these pilots are flying. They had their lights on, by the way, the wingtips. They had all the wing lights, first time and only time in combat. A fighter plane or any other plane is going to put lights on their wingtips and turn them on at night. So we were coming in, but now we're so close together that when we came into this cloud bank, they couldn't see. So some of the planes went up, some went down, some went right, some left, and they became fragmented. And so the lead planes went on, and if some of the planes following wasn't homed in on that lead plane, they did one darn good job just to get us in France. And I say that we got the best Air Corps in the world. Air Corps in those days, Air Force now. But we had the best Air Corps in the world, and we had the best pilots, and they weren't cowards like this man insinuated. They were brave. These guys went into any place. And they got shot up too, you know. So anyway, I would like to correct that thing because that irritates me that they make an insinuation like that about an American pilot. So is there another question, please? Yes, sir. You were right here.
You had mentioned gliders, and did you have any experience at all with gliders and glider pilots?
Yes, we had gliders, glider pilots, and Ed Bennick, a good friend of mine, he was a commander of a 75 howitzer, and he came in on, in Holland, he came in on gliders, but he did parachute with us. He didn't carry the 75, he came down in pieces, you know. So they had to drop, I think, 13 parachutes to get a 75 down. But we had gliders, had glider pilots, nearly all of them enlisted men, by the way, you know, sergeants, staff sergeants, and so on. But you couldn't get me. I'll parachute any day, but you're not going to get me on a glider. If that wing comes off, you're going to have like 17 men dead altogether. And sometimes they find a nice field and they come in, that glider looks like he's slow, but he's doing 90 miles an hour, otherwise he's going to stall. He's got a 75 millimeter cannon in there, plus some men. He hits that ground at 90 miles an hour and he starts slowing down. And sometimes there's a little drainage ditch that you can't see from the air. His wheels hits that, the glider tips up, that 75 howitzer breaks its moorings, and it comes out of that glider. And it takes the pilot, co-pilot, and anybody else in its way. That cannon takes them right out, and there's nothing left. So I don't like gliders. And in fact, that's one of the biggest reasons they don't use them now, because they're no good at night and too many men get killed. Every glider that lands is a crash, some you walk away from. So, there's another question, please. Yes, sir. Okay, go ahead.
The gentleman who introduced you said you liberated a concentration camp.
Yes, we liberated about 4 labor camps and several concentration camps. The last one we liberated was the one at Landsberg. And the most unique thing about that, the one at Landsberg, was that they did have the ovens, and I was the one that stopped them. I was a sergeant, and I walked in the back. We were riding on ducks, amphibious vehicles. We crashed through the fencing, and where the rest of the guys were trying to help the ones that needed it. And I walked to the back, and I found the ovens. And the Jews were still pulling the Jews' bodies in there because the German isn't going to touch those bodies. And I told them to stop it. And they said, no, no, no. They said, the Germans ordered us. If we don't do it, we go in the oven next, alive. And I said, I am the United States of America, and that's an order. You stop now. And they did. And General Taylor finally came in, and he ordered photographers and newsmen, and then they came in and they documented all this on film. And most of the bodies that you see now was from Landsberg. And the unique part about the Landsberg prison is when, before Hitler took power, he was arrested as a vagrant and a troublemaker. And he was thrown into prison. And they threw his buddy in with him. Boy, I just had his name, Rudolf Hess. And that was the prison that he served his time in, was in Landsberg, that very same prison. And when I got there, I went upstairs and I saw Hitler's cell. But somebody had already moved. He had a brass sign up there that said, here Germany's most famous son was unjustly accused of whatever, and somebody ripped that off. I think it was one of the DPs or inmates. They were so angry they went up and ripped it, probably with his bare fingernails. And nobody's ever seen that sign since. It'd be worth a fortune if you could find it. But that was the same prison, was Landsberg prison, where Hitler wrote Mein Kampf, My Battle. And through that is where he came to power. And that was in Landsberg. And he turned it into a concentration camp and burnt the bodies. And he couldn't burn them fast enough. We got there, and then what they were doing was dynamiting holes and bulldozing the bodies into them. And General Taylor ordered all the townspeople in Landsberg to go through those bodies, and they went up in there. And two of the girls came back laughing. And they made those two teenage girls go back up there and spend the night in a hole that was filled with several hundred bodies, rotted bodies of DPs. And they spent the night, and they came back throwing up. And they never laughed again. That's a terrible thing to do. I've seen human skin with tattoos that was been cured and put on the walls and made lampshades out of and wallets. I've seen that. And I saw where they took one young woman who was pregnant and giving birth, and they tied her legs together and put her on a table and watched her die along with her baby. I shouldn't be telling you these things. There's a lot of things that I've seen that I don't want to tell you. But anyway, that was Landsberg. The reason I'm telling you because that was where Hitler was in there, and he had a room that looked like Motel 6. He had a large window for view, but it had bars on it. But it was a beautiful room with desks, file cabinets, and the whole bit. He had everything he wanted. And then he had the nerve to turn this into a concentration camp and with the ovens. But he's gone now, so I don't know if that was justice or not, because he went quick and he should have gone slow. There was somebody else had a question. Yes, you, sir.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for your courageous service.
I can't hear too well.
So thank you for your courageous service.
Oh, thank you very much for saying so. Thank you for that applause from my comrades. There's only 4 of us left out of 130, so if they could hear you, I know they appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I still have a question, though. You mentioned Stephen F. Ambrose several times, and I was wondering what was your impression of that miniseries that actually I thought was really good called Damage Brothers?
Well, the reason I mentioned that was because my publisher, God, I don't know if I should say it or not, but they can't do any worse to me. My publisher, when they was going to do the miniseries, and before that, my book was given to Ambrose, and most of the Band of Brothers was taken from mine. That's one of the sayings that I just mentioned tonight about going into Noville, and the fog went straight down and straight up like a curtain on the stage. There was no wind, and so it didn't go back and forth. And that very same phrase appeared in Ambrose's book 25 years later. And there's many of those came out. And when they were doing the film, they sent my books, 3 of them, and one was still in manuscript form, and they sent the manuscript form. And that is a no-no. If they'd have taken that down, had it printed, put it on a shelf, and had a buddy buy it, it's their book, not mine. It'd be copyrighted to them.